Everybody hear me? Yeah. No? That's first. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Claire McCulley, Vice President for Advancement here at Newbury, and thank you so much for coming on our first Alumni Day this year, and for our Alumni Panel. I'm glad that we have moved it. Last year we were in the gallery and it was standing room only, so we've learned that this is the place to be, and we're very grateful to our alumni for coming back today. I'm also thrilled because of the great work with Robbie Allison's class and from our professors that all three schools are represented here today on the Alumni Panel. So that is, I think, a first. So I'm just going to have the panel introduce themselves, give their class year, and what their major was before we get started. So, without further ado, Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike, class of 2011.
Major.
Oh, I'm sorry, communications major.
Hi, I'm Samuel, class of 2010, and marketing major.
My name is Robin Yee. I was a hotel restaurant management major, and I graduated in 2005.
My name's Sean. I graduated in 2013. My major was culinary management.
Hello, Melissa Jordan. I guess I'm the oldest one here. I graduated in 98, restaurant hotel management.
Hi, I'm Tracy Hurlbert. I graduated in 2003. I was a criminal justice major.
Eric Madsen, 2008, interior design.
Hi, I'm Jill. I graduated in 2010 and I majored in healthcare management.
My name is Mark. I graduated in 2010 and I was a sport management major.
Terrific, thank you. So my first question to you, and anybody can start out, is why did you choose Newbury College as the college to attend and get your degree from?
All right, I guess I'll take it.
Thank you, Sean.
I pretty much knew I wanted to do culinary from sophomore in high school, and I was looking at all the major ones like NECI, Johnson & Wales, CIA, and then I came here to Newbury, and I was more leaning towards Johnson & Wales, and I got taken on a private tour by Miss Allison and a student here, Justin, and they brought us around, and it just seemed really intimate, and that was more or less what I was looking for out of a college experience. Instead of being in a big classroom or being with a bunch of for me, CIA was too strict when I went and visited. I wouldn't have really, my personality wouldn't have meshed well with the population there really. So it was pretty much an easy pick for me.
I guess I'll go next. I actually didn't start off my college career at Newbury. I was a business management major. I went to Adelphi for the first 2 years of my college career. I had received an internship when I was in high school at State Street. I started when I was 16. I was the youngest one there, and I said, you know what? I could do this. You know, I have a great relationship. I should, the next step would naturally be to go into business. So I applied, and I got in. And then I realized every month there's a month end, and every quarter there's quarter end, and there's ERISA, and there's annual reports. And I thought, I really cannot do this every day for the rest of my life. What is it that I love to do? What is it that makes me happy and that I'm actually really good at? So I thought, I love events. I love putting things together, coordinating different aspects of an event when it comes to from invitations to creating a theme and executing it. I said, I could do this. I think this is something that I really want to do. So I decide I'm going to go home, I'm going to tell my mother, you know what, Mom, I'm going to change my major. So she looks at me and she says, okay, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to plan events. And she looks at me, typical Asian parent, and she said, who's going to pay you to plan events? That's not a real job. Why don't you be a lawyer or a doctor or just continue with accounting? And I said, well, that's not really what I want to do. Do you want to pay for an education that I'm going to utilize, or do you want to just pay for an education, for the sake of me having an education? And so she said, well, if you transfer, I'm not paying for a credit more. You're going to graduate in 4 years, and in 2005 you'll graduate. And I said, okay. So she thought that would deter me and that I would kind of, say, okay, I'll just stick with what I'm doing. So I looked at some colleges in the area. I knew I wanted to come back to Boston because I love Boston. I was in Garden City, Long Island for 2 years, and I just kind of wanted to be closer to my family. I looked at Newbury and I liked their program, the fact that there were small classes, that if I had a question or if I wanted, to get to know my professor, I would definitely be able to do that. I met with Miss Allison. She actually lives in the same town that I live in. And I think that personal experience is what really made me want to come here, is the fact that you're not just a student in a classroom, that you do get to build personal relationships, and that they're real relationships. They're not superficial, that if you really do have problems or you really want advice, that you're going to get honest and true advice, and they're going to point you in the right direction. Mr. Pelletier also, has been really influential in my career path as well. So, I really am happy with the choice that I made. I think that Newbury has built a great foundation for the jobs, for the job that I've had and the career path that I've chosen.
I'm not sure if anyone's going to follow that. So.
I'll let you take that one. I didn't want to, so you got that one, Mark.
Well, okay. I'll try my best. For me, Newbury is, in terms of location, it's in a small town, and I grew up in a small town, so that was a good transition for me. But to be able to expand and go outside of my hometown, I was choosing between here and Springfield College, and I'm from Western Mass originally, and so to have this type of experience, to be so close to a city, that gave me the opportunity to say, okay, when I'm ready to go out there and try new things, I can do that. However, to be in a small town environment such as Brookline, it gave me that stability and that ability to be comfortable still. So that, along with a very strong volleyball program here, was obviously attractive to me, and is what I'm trying to bring back. So.
And to kind of build off what Mark was saying, the small town feel, kind of the community that Newbury presents is a small community within a small town like Brookline. But to build off what Mark said, it's the opportunity to expand into Boston, which really sold Newbury to me. I was looking at schools all over the country, Virginia, Pennsylvania, even out west, California. And when I came to visit Newbury, it was the best experience I could have had as a prospective student. Dave Hildebrandt, who was the old Newbury men's volleyball coach, he took me in with open arms. He explained to me everything I needed to know about the basics of the community here, how important I would be in the community, and that was a really big thing for me. You could go to a bigger school, and you can go to a school with a giant football program and go to football games every Saturday, or you can come to a school like Newbury and not just be a number. You can be somebody. You can actually build your reputation here. You can start your career here, believe it or not. And that was kind of the selling point for me, was that sense of community and within a small environment, because I went to a high school with 3,000 kids, and that was just a number. So when I came to Newbury, there was a sign, "Hey, Mike, welcome to Newbury." Like here, it was, just to be recognized was great, and I wasn't even a student here. So, and to go along with what Mark said, the athletic program was it for me. I was a volleyball player, and just the combination of the two was perfect.
All right, I'll follow that up. The way I ended up at Newbury was kind of on a whim. I had left high school planning to be a music producer, so I got into all the top 3 schools I wanted to go to. But I found out in August that, due to finances and whatnot, I wasn't able to go that route. So my mom is in education for like 20-something years. So, to find out 30 days before I'm supposed to start school that I don't have a school, I thought my life was falling apart. So I actually called my friend Jenna Narkram that I went to Bible camp with when we were 10, and I said, "Where are you going to school?" She's like, "I'm going to Newbury." So look at Newbury, LaSalle, or Bentley. I applied to all 3. Newbury called me back on Labor Day. Showed up Tuesday, got my schedule, and Wednesday I started classes. So that's how I ended up at Newbury. But in 2020 hindsight, though, it was an amazing opportunity. And like to Mike's point, I think I liked it here the most because you can build personal relationships with all your professors, and it's not that big of a school. It really allows you to figure out who you want to be as a person and develop your own brand and your own reputation. So I think for me that was the best thing, that my professor knew me on a first name basis. The dean knew me on a first name basis. The fact that the president would sit down with students at lunch just randomly to have a conversation. Looking back, that's set me up for success for where I am, because now I can work for a Fortune 500 company and still have a brand and be able to separate myself because I went to a small school. So that's what I would say.
I can speak for me. For me, it's a little different story. I went to Framingham State University as environmental studies, and I felt it extremely boring. But at nights, I was working at our local restaurant and fell in love. So I decided to leave Framingham and really got into the industry. I was actually a restaurant manager at the age of 19 and then decided to go to school for it. So I chose Newbury because of the flexibility, because I actually was working a full-time job while coming to school, and impressed by the professors, that people were working in the industry that were teaching me about the industry. There were nights that we had classes at the Natick Crown Plaza. Our professors took us all over the place. So for me, it was very interesting and very linked to what I was doing already.
I have to say my experience was kind of a combination of what everybody said so far. With the addition of the students at Newbury, I came to an open house, and I grew up in Western Mass. And I knew I wanted a smaller school that would be close to Boston. So the location was perfect, but the students that I met on campus during the open house and the people that brought me around on the tour were the best connection that I had for the school. And they really sold me on the community that's here and the amount that I'd be able to get involved with the campus. And the last little piece was I did end up going into the design program after being here for only about 30 days, but I came in undecided, and Newbury was very open and flexible to being an undecided student, which was perfect for me at that point because I was 90% there, but I just wasn't ready to pull the trigger.
And I can kind of second what everybody else has said. Ultimately, I always wanted to go to school in Boston. That was kind of like where I always thought I would end up. But I grew up in a very small town in Connecticut, so when I came to Newbury, it still had that same small town feel. The community was very close, and you could tell everybody knew you as a person. You were not just a number, and I really enjoyed that. I took my tour with a gentleman named Sal, who was in admissions. I don't think he's here any longer, but during the course of the tour, it came out that we shared a birthday, and several months later, he called me on my birthday before I had made my decision, so that kind of clinched it for me. So it was cool. So.
I actually started at Worcester State College for 2 years, and then I actually transferred to Newbury. And what kind of drew me to Newbury was their healthcare management field. And I really think that's kind of put me to where I am successful at today. So I really owe it all to the major. And that's kind of really why I chose Newbury.
And Tracy, you'll be happy to know that Sal is coming back to
Oh,
Newbury.
good. That's great.
So
I'll remember
be
to
sure
call him on his
tell
birthday.
He should call you on your birthday. So a few of you have mentioned a name, I can't think of it. Robbie Allison, who influenced you. But is there a professor here who had an impact on your life, took you under their wing, something like that, and then helped you with your career?
I can go first on that one. My professor, unfortunately he's no longer here, but he was the dean of the criminal justice department at the time, and he started prior to me being here, but he was with us all 4 years that I was here. He was my advisor, and he kind of, I came into the criminal justice program thinking, like many criminal justice students do, that I'm going to go into the FBI when I graduate. And he opened my eyes to the diversity of the whole criminal justice field and the private security industry, because he had actually worked as a security guard before he became a lawyer and, continued on in his career. So, ironically enough, the summer between my junior and senior year, I became a security officer at the Atrium Mall, which is also no longer there. Things changed so much. But now I've gone on to continue my career in the private security industry and have been very successful in my career. And I don't think I would have chosen that path or even looked at that path and given it a second glance if Steve hadn't shown me that that's an option. So.
I guess I'll toot Miss Allison's horn. I've always had a plan. I've always kind of known what I've wanted to do. So I knew that when I was coming here that I wanted to do events. But what makes Miss Allison so great is that she sees my strengths and my weaknesses and helped, the things that I was really good at, she encouraged the things that I needed to work on. She mentored me through them. I would stop by at her house when I needed help and say, Miss Allison, can I come over really quick? I just want to run something by you. And we would talk and we would chat for a little while. But, Mr. Pelletier also, stopping by, he lives down the street from actually where I just bought a house. And so, they're still involved in my life. I consider them an extension of my family. You're only, I think, as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And I'm very grateful for them and their support. I think that, when you come into college, you don't really have a sense of who you are. You have an idea of who you want to be. And I think it's smart to align yourself with people who are going to help you make good decisions and people who are going to encourage the good things and the good qualities that you have about yourself. I am extremely type A. If I write a thank you note and a letter looks like it's slightly off, I'll rewrite the thank you note. And I think that's those little details that make me good at what it is that I do. I'm paid to notice the details. I'm paid to notice that, the shade of pink is slightly off on the invitations and to reprint them. People would just kind of dismiss that, and Miss Allison would, she'd put me in charge of like invitations for events or, a theme and kind of say, go with it, what do you think? And, when I did, I ran with it. And there were different students and, classmates that excelled in other areas, and then just kind of building teams that, I have a classmate that I still keep in touch with, Wayne, and, us together was trouble because we would have all of these elaborate ideas, and Miss Allison would just look at us with like deer in headlights and say, okay, this is what you really want to do. And I don't necessarily know if a lot of other professors at other colleges would let you kind of take that much control of, of a class or encourage you that much and take so much of their free time to help you be a better person. So I thank Miss Allison publicly for all of her time.
I would have to say Amy Shirley, just because applying to Newbury last minute, she was the first person I came in contact with. I didn't have she found out through one of our conversations that I didn't have a first year seminar class because something happened with scheduling or whatever, so she put me in hers and she kind of like looked after me for the first couple weeks. So I would have to say Amy Shirley, just to get me to open up and get to know people. In addition to that, it's a tie between John Pelletier and Sharon Roberts because I loved events, but I also loved strategic management, and I looked forward to strategic management every week. I was just really excited about it. So yeah, John Pelletier and Sharon Roberts.
I think I don't want to assume, but I think I can speak for most of the panel, if not all, when I can say that we all have someone at Newbury that we still keep in touch with, whether it's a professor, coach, anybody who's been hired, an employee. One of the really great things about Newbury is, like I said before, you can build those relationships with your professors and with your coaches and employees. I had a couple of people too, that I don't think they're here anymore. Dan Hunt was the communications director. And then as well, John Durham, he was one of my, it was funny because he wasn't a teacher for my major, he taught 2 history classes that I took, and I took the first one, and I'm a history nerd, and he killed it, he was unbelievable, so I had to take the second one, and I took the second one the next semester. I told him, I was like, listen, I'm not even supposed to take this, but I have to, you're so good. So it kind of developed from there. We developed a relationship. I'd meet with him after class, we'd go over my papers, we'd talk history. But it's those types of experiences that I truly value from my Newbury experience. I don't talk to John anymore, but I'd love to hit him up for some history knowledge if I could. I don't think he's on Facebook though. But Dan Hunt, though, the communications department director, he was instrumental in helping me figure out what I really wanted to do and helping me figure out who I am as a person. I think someone had mentioned it, that when you come to college, you don't really know who you are. You come here to kind of figure out your identity. I didn't figure it out in 4 years. I got really close. I feel like after I graduated, I was able to really then figure out my real skill set. But Newbury was, like I said, the best experience I could have asked for. And the professors that I've maintained contact with were instrumental, like I said, in helping me succeed and graduate.
For me, I have 2. And 2 of these people have been very influential in my life. And the first one would be Sharon Roberts, for sure. Sharon, I had numerous business courses with Sharon, and Sharon believed in me And I'm not even sure, I've never asked why. It was one of those, I was just in her class, and I did not know her until she introduced herself that day. And I remember just handing my first homework assignment in, and she just said, hey, you did a fantastic job. And I was like, okay. Just to have that small connection with any professor, which I'm sure most of us did have here, it went a long way for me. And something that I'm big on is not letting people down. I don't want to let anyone down. And someone that puts so much faith into me, and Sharon did every single year. She believed in me when at some points others didn't, and I just never want to let you down. So because of that, it pushed me to be a better person, a better student. And the second one is Roz Abukasis. And Roz was my first year seminar professor, teacher, guide, and the relationship that I've had with her ever since then has been very special. With being a volleyball player, I was a tad arrogant at times, I'll say.
No.
And Roz was always there. Roz was always there to pop the ball, just to burst the ball and say, okay, you're not as good as you think you are, and life doesn't revolve around you at times. So she kept things in perspective for me. And again, to have that type of relationship with two very special people, and people that I stayed in contact with throughout the course of the years, and are two reasons why I'm still here.
For me, I think it was definitely Andrew Paraskos. He was the head of the interior design program here, and I think it was just last year that he retired. And I had mentioned that I came into Newbury undecided, so I met with him shortly after I came to Newbury to talk about the design program. And I remember that first meeting where he explained everything to me, and I thought, this person is so approachable, and obviously Newbury is small, and there's no way I'm not going to have the same professor a few times during my 4 years here. And he was a person that I could definitely see myself learning with for the next 4 years. And he was a fantastic mentor while I was at Newbury, and helped me with internships, and to the point that we stayed connected long after I graduated. And I even came back to his retirement party because he was such an important part of my time here.
I'll say for me, I had two. One is she's no longer here, Chef Kay. For me, she's from the next town over from me. I'm from Upton, Massachusetts. She's from Milford. And pretty much, I never knew any of the pastry side to food, really, and she would teach me anything, was willing to come in on a weekend just to show me certain things. I worked plenty of the events that she had, like for people to come in out of, like normal people, come out, not students, pay there. She taught me that. And she would push me. She helped me through a really tough time my junior year. I had a family friend pass away from a motorcycle accident. She was there for me the whole time, kept me trucking through the whole school year, got me through it, got me to not fail out that year pretty much. That's how bad it was getting. And my second one I would have to say would be Chef Pazmino. Not around as much, I don't go see him as much, but I know that if I ever need anything, I can go to him. He'll help me find a job, he'll help me do whatever I need to do to get myself up and push myself forward and move my life along and my career along. It's just, the people here are willing to teach you whatever you want to do and do whatever they can for you, but you have to be willing to go to them. They're not going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing you to come see them, to come do events like the Saunders School has. I know they have events and they need help sometimes. They're not going to force you to do that. You have to be willing to do that and build those relationships with them. If you're not, it's just going to be one of those another typical college experiences. You go into class, you're bored, you leave, and then you forget everything you learned. If you're not willing to open yourself up to them, it's just, you're not going to get anywhere.
For me, it was John Pelletier. I just think his industry, he was very, he helped network in the industry, and actually told me that when I get spent from the restaurant industry, to keep my eyes open for the other world, which is Monday through Friday, still around some great executive chefs. So that's where I ended up at the time, was with Marriott when I left the restaurant. So I owe it to him that I have my weekends back.
Oh, do you want me to go? Yeah. For me, it was definitely Sharon Roberts as well. She was my advisor, and I had just so many classes with her. And we actually had a guest speaker in our medical law and ethics class who spoke about organ donation. And that's kind of really what got me in the organ donation world. And I really just have to bring it all back to Sharon, because every class she always just went above and beyond. And to have guest speakers for healthcare was just so nice, and it kind of just really made my experience at Newbury just great.
Thank you. I mean, that was very moving. I had to try to kind of hold it there because I know a lot of these people. They're my colleagues, and I work with them every single day. And you've just given them a great gift because you've told them that everything that they do every single day really matters a great deal. And they know that, and I know they know that, but for them to hear that from you and for the students here to hear that, I'm really very grateful. That was a very nice moment for us, and that is Newbury College. I really believe it's this community, and everybody here cares about each other. So I'm glad to know that you carry that on out in the big wide world. Another area that I wanted to touch on today was your internship, because I know that some of the students are either approaching it or have done it or whatever. Sometimes I hear dread from students that they've got to do it, but then I think it's also because we're such a career-focused education, how important it is. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about your internship experience and whether or not that helped you in your career, or maybe guided you. You ended up, some of our interns end up in that particular company because they had interned that. So I'll just open it up to whoever wants to start.
I can certainly speak to that. I had mentioned that Andrew Parascos helped me find my first internship. He knew I was interested in residential interiors, and he stopped me one day in the hall when we were all getting ready to look for internships, and mentioned that he knew a designer who might be a good fit for me. So he put a call in and set up the meeting for me, and I'm not saying that finding an internship is always that easy, but he put me in touch with Mark Bombara, who had a small firm downtown at the time, and I went in for a meeting and I interned there, and I think I did it over the summer before my junior year. So I had some time before I graduated, and it was a great experience. And then when I was ready to graduate, Mark reached out to me because he knew that I was going to be looking for a job, and I worked for Mark for 4 years right after graduation. So it was a fantastic experience to have that internship, and I know it's always a little scary to jump out of that comfort zone of going to classes every day and having to go out and look for a job in the field, but if I didn't do that, it would have been a very different experience, I think, getting into the design world right after graduation.
I actually got my current job and internship from going to an event they had at school. Aramark comes here and recruits people, and I need my second internship to graduate on time. So I went there, got my internship, and it just happened to work out that I loved what I was doing over there at Fenway, and it became my job, and I can see myself there for a while. More opportunities to grow. In my first internship, I know everybody hates hearing about the career fair and everybody dreads going, but that's where I got my first internship from BC. I was actually in class with Sarah Shekels, career planning, and we planned the career fair, and Boston College happened to come, and I talked to their HR director, and I ended up working for a year over at Boston College in their catering services. We did all the football games, all the hockey games, the president's personal dinners, renaming a building, everything over there. I wouldn't have got that experience if I didn't come to the things they put on here. It's not, they don't just put these things on just to make it seem like they're doing things. You actually can do things if you do that.
My internship experience was pretty hectic. At the time that I took my internship, I was in the middle of volleyball season. I had just become a resident assistant, and on top of that, I needed an internship to graduate with my 6 classes that I was taking that semester. So the internship itself was great. It was a communications-oriented internship. I did a lot of video production. Really what I wanted to go into when I went to college. I wanted to come out and get into some video editing, work for a big-time television studio. But the internship, when I got into it, about 30-40% of it was actually hands-on video editing. The rest of it was getting along in a work environment and really understanding what it's going to be like at the next step once you get in that career. And I remember during those days, I was kind of stressing out a lot between everything that was going on. I would meet with Roz all the time. I'd come down and get some good advice. But it really prepared me for how tough it might be in the real world in terms of balancing a ton of different things. If you're able to do an internship, be an RA, have 6 classes, and be part of a full-time sport, there's not much else that you can't do once you graduate. Seriously though, and even now my schedule is still pretty packed. I coach with Mark on top of my full-time job, and at some days I still go talk to Roz. Some days it's tough, but I have to be honest, that year and that internship and that experience prepared me for the real world like I couldn't even explain.
For me, my internship, I didn't do an internship. I did something called prior learning. The reason why is at the time I was working for AT&T in Brookline, and I'd been with the company for 3 years, and I had a car, I had an apartment. When you're young and single, you want to live a certain lifestyle. And I had a conversation with my dad. I'm like, I don't see how I'm going to take a semester off from working to learn experience on an internship. So I looked into it from one of my professors, and that was the first time that I met Sharon. And I remember reading specifically that it had to be approved by Sharon. So I kind of knew my back was against the wall. Like I knew I wasn't going to quit my job to do an internship. So I kind of went into it like this is going to have to work, but at the same time, I'm at her mercy. So Sharon and I, we had a great conversation. She kind of laid out the whole process, and had that not been an opportunity, I'm not really sure what I would have had to do. So for me, it was like a gift just drop out of heaven. So I was so blessed to do that, and what it forced me to do is I had to write maybe 8 to 12 different papers, and it forced me to really look at my job beyond what it was and really figure out like, okay, you've been here for the last 3 years, clocking in, clocking out and making money, but what is your job's role and responsibilities, and how does it affect your business, and how do you want to move up? So Sharon kind of forced me to look at what I'm really doing and what can I take from it. So my advice would just be bloom where you're planted, regardless if you're not in a situation you want to be in. That's really what I took from it, was to just make it work, and it did, and I graduated on time, and I was very happy. So. The official mic pass.
You're very good at it.
Thank you.
So I am a hospitality major, and the, I guess, funny thing is that I never worked in hospitality until after I graduated. As I mentioned, I worked at State Street, so I actually worked at State Street from the time that I was 16 to the time that I was 22. I probably had more tenure there than some of my colleagues when I quit, who are probably 10 years older than me. It was an interesting situation, but I've had this responsibility to be on time, that, when you show up to work, you're not doing anyone a favor. You are paid to be there. So I think that you have jobs and you're kind of growing up and you are young and you want to have this fun life. Your friends are going out and things, there's a party to go to and there's, a social life to be had. But, I didn't necessarily have a job in the hospitality industry, but the foundation that I had was how to be a good employee and to instill a work ethic and a drive that you would only get if you have any job. If I'm supposed to be somewhere at 3 o'clock, showing up at 3:01 is late. If I have a deadline and it's supposed to be done at end of business day 5 o'clock, it's end of business day 5 o'clock. It's not end of business day 6 o'clock because my time zone is different than your time zone. These are the small things that are universal regardless of what industry you are in. My internship, I actually was at an Abbey, thanks to Mr. Pelletier. He has a creative mind. And knowing that my style is, planning and management, the Abbey in Hingham had this conference center, and they needed someone to kind of build their program. They would have these small meetings, but they had no marketing collateral. They had no set standards as to how to sell an event or the way a setup should be, how to put on a meeting from start to finish. So as part of my internship, I kind of built a program and created a collateral to give to potential guests that were coming to the Abbey. So even though I was more of like the background, the planning process of it and kind of getting the foundation set and not necessarily the guest interaction, I think that also helped me with my career. I ended up graduating college and a month later getting a job at the Four Seasons. It's a luxury hotel located just across from the public garden, but you know, a lot of those foundations, the foundation that I had with, you know, your time management, meeting deadlines, being punctual, starting a project and an event from start to finish, all comes together, I guess, and regardless of what job that you have. So if you don't necessarily have, you're not in, your job right now isn't necessarily with your major, or you know, you're just doing something for now because it's helping you pay for school, but you know, big picture, you know, I want to do something else. Just take every job that you have and apply it towards the next job that you want. And know that a lot of these skills and these things that you are learning are universal. I kind of just went, you know, took long about route to get to the job that I ultimately wanted, but you know, all of the experiences that I've had have created a great foundation that even though I didn't have a hospitality major, the hotel manager of the Four Seasons looked past all of that and said, yes, I'm going to take a chance on you because you have the drive and you have the dedication to be the type of employee that we want. So, you know, don't be discouraged if you are kind of unsure of what it is that you want to do. If you have that and you have a passion for something, you know, you can work towards it. Four Seasons is kind of this, you know, this hotel and this luxury market that a lot of people want to go to. And, you know, I was nervous when I interviewed because I did say to myself, I have no hotel or restaurant experience and I want to go into catering. What are the chances that they would ever hire me? And they did. And, you know, I want to say that I was lucky, but I also want to say that I had great teachers that kind of prepared me for this interview. So.
My internship was at Newton North High School. I was working with Tom Giusti, the athletic director over there. Sharon Roberts set up that interview for me, and it was an incredible experience. I was able to be there during their last year at the old high school and work with them during their transition process to building their new high school. And I sat in on multiple design meetings where I was able to see what their thought process was for their gym and their outdoor facilities. I sat in on interviews, and for me, I was just a sponge. I was taking in anything that I saw. It wasn't even necessarily advice that they were giving me or telling me. It was, I was learning on my own just from watching them work. And to be in that environment was very special, especially for me because I'm working in an athletic department now. I've worked in athletic departments ever since then, and so it certainly prepped me to be where I am and to work in numerous environments that that you'll see in athletic departments because they're not all the same. They're drastically different. So to be able to develop life skills there and to pretty much show how passionate I was, I guess the most important piece for me was I wanted to show them that I wasn't there just because I had to be there. I was there because I wanted to get something out of it. And if you have that mentality, trust me, it'll go a long way.
My internship was at Harvard Vanguard. Thank you again to Sharon Roberts for helping me with that. And I was actually in the HR department. And so not only did it help me get my job and kind of master like the interview process, now I'm interviewing candidates now in my job. So I'm really kind of taking what I had in my internship 5 years ago and really using it in my everyday life now. So it was really helpful for me.
I, like our friend at the other end of the table, did not do an internship. I worked full-time, I took full-time classes, and I played softball, and it just was not going to fit into my schedule. So finding out that there was an exception was huge. However, I regretted it because after I graduated, I had a really hard time figuring out what I wanted to do. Finding a job, I had no experience to put on my resume other than the retail experience that I had from working during, you know, my time here. So I definitely wish that I had done my internship, and I would encourage everybody to take advantage of the opportunity to do it. Because listening to these stories and the jobs that were lined up and the experience that was obtained, that's priceless. So I was very fortunate at the time, and I was glad that I did what I did, but afterwards looking back, wish that I had done my internship, so.
I took restaurant hotel management, so I already knew the restaurant industry, so John had recommended I try the hotel. I'm glad I did because I hated it. So I definitely focused on the restaurant aspect of it and stayed there for 20 years.
And finally, if you had one bit of advice to give our undergraduates here, what would that be? It can be under anything, for a career, for what they're doing in college, but if you had one piece of advice to give to them, what would you give?
Well, I have a very strong opinion on this, so I'm going to go. Your brand. The second you walk out your door, you are selling yourself. So you have to ask yourself what it is that I want to project to the world. What it is am I going to post on Facebook that can be Googled when a potential employer looks me up? To make decisions that are good decisions, and that when that when you're 18 and you're now 38, that you're going to look back on and say, you know what, I can look back in these 20 years and say that I've made good choices. Your employers, just as savvy as you are even more savvy. They want to know that the person that they are going to employ is going to represent their company and the brand that they're putting forth, and that is, going to their bottom line, that the investment they're making in you is what it is cohesive and, is what it is that they want for themselves. If you want to be in events, or you want to be a lawyer, or whatever it is that you want to be, make sure that when you step foot outside of that door, you are projecting that image, because you never know who you're going to bump into in the course of a day that could change your life. Even if you're going to class, take the time to get off your sweats, put your hair in a ponytail, and come to class dressed, because Miss Allison or Sharon could have a guest speaker or someone that's going to change your life, and you want to be ready to take advantage of that moment. You don't want, an opportunity to pass because they looked at you. An employer will judge you in your interview in the first 2 seconds of looking at you, and they can just, humor you and interview you, for the next 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever else, just to humor you, but they've already made the decision once they've set eyes on you. And I think that, everyone that comes here, this is such a great school. Just looking at these people that I've met for the first time, they have such great stories. And you have to ask yourself, what it is that I want to be and what it is that I want to do, and that dress for that position. Dress thinking that I'm going to go outside today and I'm going to get the job that I want. And again, remember, you're a brand. Sell yourself. Whatever it is that you do, you are selling yourself every minute of every day. And be careful what you post on Facebook. It never goes away. It's out there forever.
Mine would be 2 parts. One would be figure out what your elevator pitch is, like what you want to do, what gets you up out of bed in the morning, because you spend 40 hours a week at a job. So, and the one thing in life is you can't get time back. So my goal when I left school was the quicker I can figure out what I want to do and how I want to get there, the better off I'm going to be. So I think that's the key, is really think about what you want to do and then just craft a plan around that. The other thing is that it is really, 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 really hard to get and be the person that you want to be. So don't get discouraged if you don't get it as quickly. I know when I walked across that stage, I figured within a year it'd be the corner office and the secretary and the whole nine, and it does not happen that quickly at all. So just keep that in mind. And another goal for me was to be my worst critic, and if you do that and you really perfect your craft and figure out what you got to do to get to the next level, you guys are going to be just fine. But don't get too hard on yourself if you don't get there as quick as you think you should. It's not a race.
My advice would be to be open-minded with what you want to do or what your ultimate goals are. It's great to have a plan, and I certainly knew what industry I wanted to be in, but when I graduated, having that kind of willingness to just take the job that's going to give me a paycheck so I can get some experience. When I was here, I spent all of my time focusing on the criminal justice. All of my electives were pretty much criminal justice. But I recommend branching out. Now every day I need to use business applications, accounting, information, things like that. So take a course that's maybe outside of your comfort zone and be open-minded to what that could do for you down the road, and where it could lead you.
My advice would be to take your time at Newbury to get involved and meet additional departments on campus, and just kind of build your network while you're already here at the school. When I was here, I was in the admissions department. I was an admission ambassador, and coming from high school, I was relatively quiet. I didn't get involved in many things, so I had a good friend that was an ambassador, and she was a few years older, and she dragged me into the program, and I actually fell in love with it. I dragged tours around here for 3 years, and it was one of the best experiences I had at Newbury, helping them put on events. I learned a lot about event planning, and I actually learned a lot about office administration, working in the admissions department and helping with spreadsheets and mailings and things like that, that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So take the opportunities that you can to get involved while you're here, because you'd be amazed how they can transfer into that first interview that you have.
Yeah, I'll say, building off of what he just said, take advantage of what they provide for you here. I wouldn't have my job, and I know I can say that, if I didn't go to the recruitment thing here at Newbury. I would still probably be working at the restaurant in my town, doing the same thing I did for 6 years before I came here. Take advantage of it. They don't just put these things into place just so it looks good when students come in for open houses. I wish it didn't take me taking career planning and development to go to the career fair, but it did, and it opened my eyes to seeing that, oh, if I actually go here, I can meet people, make connections. And I can say only really speak for the culinary students on this point, like, I know there are events, I know they need help, even if it's dishwashing, doing little things. Just from doing those little things and getting the experience, I met a lot of my connections from going there. Even if it meant I had to take a class that I wasn't going to get credit for, I would still do it. It was worth every minute of it. And going to the career fair is worth every minute. Going to the recruitment things for your major is worth it, even if it's a little activity out in the courtyard. Go see it if it has to do with your major, because trust me, you're not going to regret it.
For me, it's be willing to sacrifice to be successful. And what I mean by that is, yes, just like Sam was saying, when you graduate, you expect to be successful right away, but it doesn't work that way. For me, when I graduated from here, I went to Springfield to get my master's in sports psychology. And from there, the big question is, well, what are you going to do? What's your next step? And it's it's the phrase that as a senior or last year, you constantly dread. It is. And for me, I really didn't know. And I was given an opportunity to be a volunteer assistant coach at the Division I level, but I had to move across the country to do so. And during the interview, I was told that I couldn't work another job. I had to be there, and it was voluntary. So I learned right away that if you're willing to sacrifice and work extremely hard to be where you want to be at a faster pace, be willing to do it. I worked that entire summer, 40 plus hours a week. I saved as much money as I could so that way I could move across the country, move all my stuff across the country, pay my rent, utilities, stuff like that, and not have to work for 4 months just to pursue my dream. And for me, it brought me back here, and ultimately this was the goal. When I left here, I said, I want to coach here more than anything, and it's pretty hilarious that I end up here so quickly, but it's sacrificing does go a long way.
These guys have said some great things. I don't know where to build off of that. I guess to go off of Mark's point, I wanted to say, get out of your comfort zone, try new things. That's so cliche. One thing I would advocate, and you guys can start this now. You may think that, I can wait until I graduate, then I can start really grinding and start hustling and really start working as hard as I can. Start now. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. Find out how you can improve yourself academically. Figure out new things to make yourself more successful. But I would just say put your head down and work as hard as you can in these years now between 18, 30. These are the years of your life where you really form who you're going to be going forward. I would highly recommend to get away from the stereotype that young people don't work hard. Be that person that comes to class early. Be that person that stays extra to talk to your professors. Kind of how we were saying before, you develop those relationships. By putting that extra effort in, and again, not to be cliche, but to put that extra effort in, it really does go a long way. I'm a living example of success in terms of nose to the grindstone, no sleep, working 60 hours a week. But I have a goal. I have a serious goal for when I get into my 30s, and I think now I'm doing the right steps for it. I would try to pass that advice along to you guys, for those of you still in school. Now's the time. Don't wait. Because when you graduate, you'll wish you had started this year. You wish you had started last year. So that's the advice I would definitely give.
I would say mine is take advantage and network as much as possible. I network with a lot of people all the time, so it expands my web quite a bit. So I'm going to name drop a little bit here for the foodies in the audience. Recently at events side by side with James Beard Foundation, James Beard Award winners, and meetings with Barbara Lynch. I got a response on an email to Ming Tsai. So, I mean, build your network. I think 70 to 80% of jobs come from networking, so take advantage of every event or situation that you have, and they'll help you get a job someday.
I would just add, kind of make sure that you're building your resume kind of as your college career progresses. I know for me being in healthcare, I volunteered at Mass General and Brigham and Women's, and I know when I first applied to the New England Organ Bank, that was something that my boss really kind of liked about my resume, and I kind of think that may be why I got in the position that I did. And I've been at the New England Organ Bank for 5 years, and I really just kind of bring it back to Newbury, to everything that I learned. And I would just kind of add to also start applying kind of soon. I was graduating in May, and I started applying to jobs in March. So I don't think soon is ever too soon to start applying.
Terrific. Now, I'm done asking my questions. I'm going to open it up to the floor. Students who might have some questions for our panelists. Don't be shy.
Doesn't look like a shy group.
Corey.
As Newbury students, a few of you that had internships, maybe in your junior year or even going into your senior year, when you did get your internship, how did you balance that with the responsibilities that you already had on top of your schoolwork and everything, trying to do all this to expand your opportunities?
I'll take this one. I think planning is key to that. My senior year, like I said before, I had a packed schedule, RA, internship, volleyball, 6 classes. But one thing I really did to give myself kind of a head start was I would plan out my weeks ahead of time. I would take advantage of any downtime I had to get ahead on things. But I would say keep that end goal in mind as you go through that process. This is where I want to be when I'm done with it. If I put my head down now and work as hard as I can, when I come up for air, I'll be in a much better place. Kind of things like that really helped me keep going, and organize myself to put myself in a good spot.
Anybody else want to jump in?
I could add to that a little bit. I did my internship, and I assume that's still offered over the summer because it worked in with my schedule a lot better. I was able to work my income-producing job and do my internship while not worrying about classes over the summer, so that worked out really well for me.
For me, I knew I would be doing an internship over the summer during school. I did both my internships during classes, during everything. So I built my schedule around what I knew my hours would be. So I would take a mod here or two just to break up the classes. So I'd only be taking, realistically, 3 academic classes and maybe 2-3 mods a semester. So in between there, I would get as many hours as I had when my mods weren't going on or my production classes weren't going on. If I'd have 1 class on a Wednesday, I would go into work and get as many hours as I could. And that's how I pretty much balanced my whole workload out like that. Just planning your class schedule around, if you want to do an internship, plan your class schedule around your internship.
Other questions? Roz.
First of all, thank you all for coming. You do us.
Thank you, Roz.
As faculty and staff at Newbury. But if there was one thing that you could do differently, either during your college career or immediately following, what would that be?
Well, I'll take this one first. What I would do differently, I would have, because all you have in life is time, you can't get it back. My dad gets up every day at 4:45. He reads his Bible, he does his devotions, then he hits the gym, and he sends his emails between 6 and 7. And he told me that when I was 21. He was like, this is what you have to do to be successful. And I didn't really do that. I went on a cruise, and I saw some pictures, and I realized I can't eat whatever I want anymore. You know, I'm not 19 anymore. So what I would say is, looking back, I would have gone to the gym every single day because I went to the gym every day in junior high, and I had straight A's. I had a 4.0. And when I didn't go to the gym in college or in high school, my grades weren't as good. So for me personally, going to the gym just forces me to be more alert and more decisive. I make better decisions. I have a better day. So really just having a routine, I would wake up in the morning and just kind of wing it. So to Mike's point, you know, time management and planning, but also I would have been in the gym. So.
Me too.
The do-over question, let's go.
I'd say for me, I know like I keep repeating it, but I wish I took more advantage of everything that happened here. I wish I took my schoolwork a little more seriously. I wish it didn't take me graduating to realize what I could have done here or where I could have gone if I put that little bit of extra effort into. I wish it didn't take my senior year to me to start opening up my mind to all these things that I had right at my fingertips, but I never took advantage of.
I said earlier, I would definitely have done my internship. I would have found a way to make it work, because gaining that resume experience is absolutely priceless.
I would say seeing Sarah Shekels in the Career Center more. Sarah does a great job, and I know folks who are in school now, you may kind of be like, oh no, I can take care of that later. One thing I really wish I had done more when I was still at Newbury was spending more time in the Career Center, preparing myself for the next step. When I graduated, it was and it's gotten a little better over the last couple years, but when I graduated in 2011, the job market was, it's pretty bad. So my cousin actually hooked me up with a $11 an hour job at his insurance agency, and it was terrible. And I remember I was sitting at my desk, and I think it was August of after I graduated, and I was thinking to myself, I should have went to Sarah Shekels' office. What was I thinking? No, but seriously, I would recommend the younger people, take advantage of it. It's a great opportunity to get yourself noticed and develop a relationship with someone that can help you after you leave here. But that's definitely what I would say.
So I guess I have to answer.
There you go.
I would say volunteer more. And then I was in junior high and high school. I did a lot of volunteer work. And then when I came into college, and then even with work now, I mean, life gets busy, life happens. But I think that it's important to give time. Time is something, you know, you don't necessarily have to give your money to make a difference. I think that if you give your time to, you know, whether it's, you know, to a hospital, you know, volunteering at, you know, 1 day a week, or going to a library, or if anyone even goes to a library anymore. I know my mom does. But, you know, just those little things to make a difference in the community. I think that not only is it important, you know, to have, you know, yes, your career is very important, your friends and your family, but there's another component to, I think, having a full life, and that is to volunteer and make time for others. It was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, my best friend, who actually happens to work in the same office as I do, I said, you know, we work so hard, we like work late hours, and then when we do have a free moment, we just, you know, go out and, you know, go out to eat or go shopping or something. Why don't we do something more, like something more meaningful? And, you know, we'll volunteer and we'll go to the food bank, and we'll pack food or we'll unpack food or whatever it is that they need. We just kind of go online and look for things to do, because, you know, what's an hour of your time? It makes all the difference in someone else's life, and you don't really realize what kind of impact it is, because we just take what we have for granted. I think it's important to, you know, yes, it's important to have a career and have a steady job and all of these other things, but at the end of the day, I think, you know, to really have a full life, to work-life balance, and also kind of give what is some of what you have to others. Maybe I should volunteer more in Miss Allison's classes and speak. I don't know. But, you know, stop, I guess, to not always think about you. Life isn't always about you, you know, and you can apply that into so many aspects. When you go into a job, you know, you're going to be one of thousands of people who has a college degree. You know, you're going to have a management degree. Are you going to be too good to take the entry-level position because you have a management degree. No, you're not, because you just want your foot in the door. How hungry are you? You're going to compete with so many other hungry people that want that job just as bad as you do, you know, so set yourself apart, you know, you volunteered, she said she volunteered at the hospital, and that made all the difference when she was applying for her current position. So again, you never know. When you walk out that door, you never know what opportunity is going to be waiting for you.
Terrific. Well, thank you all so much. We are so lucky to have your alma mater very proud. So the speakers will be here. Students want to come up and ask anything privately. Thank you so much for coming.